Many people believe that fashion trends and classic style are incompatible. But, believe it or not, we disagree. While fashion may change, it still has to get its inspiration from somewhere. And more often than not, the best source is from the past. Imitation is, after all, the best form of flattery. Some trends are exaggerations of old styles, like how the big and bold power suits from the 80s were basically the 40s victory suit styles on steroids. That isn't to say that all trends are this way, but chances are what's in today was at least inspired from somewhere in the past. Even the slim styles we've seen over the past decade or so were clearly inspired by the mod styles in the 60s. And elements or design features that seem to be completely unique can be traced back to classic style, even if their connection in the fashion family tree is a bit removed. For example, windbreakers and items made from technical fabrics in hypebeast culture can be traced back to military innovations in fabric usage. Just like how the pea coat, trench coat, and field coat all originally were designed to keep soldiers warm and dry on the battlefield, but later became classic and stylish pieces for civilians in their day-to-day life. So while these reinterpretations are usually not a one-to-one of their predecessors, in terms of longevity or versatility, there is still some DNA of classic style in them. Many trends are, in fact, revivals of much older style conventions. Neo-Edwardian fashions regained some popularity in the 1960s thanks to the British influencers like the Teddy Boys and the Avengers. The TV show, not Marvel's version. Plush silk ties of the 1980s were intended to be evocative of the 1940s. 1900s horizontal striped shirts reappeared in the 80s and 90s. And one of our personal favorites was when the 70s briefly brought back suiting that copied the styles of the 1930s. Right now, it's the fuller cuts that seem to be reviving again, after years of seeing overly skinny trends across the board. Hopefully this time it's closer to the 40s and not the 80s. Classic style elements are often revived as trends precisely because classic style is so versatile, flattering, and appealing. Classic style has survived for decades and weathered many changes and trends. So it makes sense, even if it's a little ironic, that trends would draw from classic style. Classic style prevents trendsetters from reinventing the wheel, and designers can have an effective canvas to work from when adding their own twist to these established formulas. Sometimes these experiments even make a breakthrough and improve things for the better. Believe it or not, we don't always believe that older is always better. It's important to remember that Harrington, leather, safari, and field jackets were once just trends when incorporated into classic style daywear rather than workwear. But they eventually earned their place in classic style as casual and business casual staples that are now timelessly appealing. Classic doesn't mean frozen in amber after all. On the other hand, that doesn't mean that everything that's trendy will stand the test of time. We have a whole series on that idea after all. But some innovations are genuine improvements over what came before. It's no different with textiles either, where there's no denying that suit fabrics have become much softer and much more comfortable than their scratchier predecessors. And textile companies like Loro Piana are always trying to push for better insulation and protection from the elements with innovations like their Storm system line, leading to changes that improve the functionality of outerwear for all brands. And while not every idea will be a hit that sticks around, the ones that do become undeniably useful for the future of the industry. At one point, even black tie was the more casual, trendy version of formal evening wear that was intentionally worn in public by men who wanted to be trendsetters, breaking out of the mold of white tie. Even though today it is difficult for most people to conceive a way of dressing that is more traditional, formal, or established than black tie, it was, at one point, a trend. So while there's a reason why certain items will continue to remain classic, some elements of classic will always be in flux. But before we move on to our next point, let's go over my outfit. And let's see if there's any trendy, yet classic pieces in it. For my outfit today, I am wearing a red or burgundy colored sport coat, and it is unlined, has no cap, is very unconstructed, it's very hot in Minnesota today. And underneath that, I am wearing a textured open weave polo in white. For my pants, I am wearing an off-white pair of trousers. They do have a Gurkha style waistband, kind of coming back to the topic of the video. And same with the Polo. I think both of these are a great representation of having a little bit of a trend. On my feet, I am wearing a pair of brown suede loafers by J. Butler. My pocket square is the Negroni pocket square from Fort Belvedere. For my fragrance, I am wearing the Oxford fragrance from the Roberto Ugolini collection. You can find this and other classic menswear accessories on our Fort Belvedere website. How else can trends improve classic style then? By encouraging experimentation. Trends can inspire you to try something that you wouldn't otherwise attempt. Consider double monk shoes or Gurkha trousers, two of the trendier items in the past decade in classic menswear. These examples were popularized and pushed as hip items in the classic menswear space because of their particular characteristics. And Gurkha trousers leverage a unique history and pedigree, while being comfortable to wear. Monk straps sought out to capitalize on casualization of leather dress shoes, offering footwear that didn't have stodgy appearing laces, but instead elegant, clean lines with visually interesting buckles. And Gurkha trousers leverage a unique history and pedigree, while being comfortable to wear, uniting the full lines of classic trousers with a plush drape and visually interesting hardware, and the more convenient wearing experience typical of casual trousers. Both of these articles broke the mold when it came to some elements of classic style. But while these trending style variations seemed like gimmicks, the classic style conventions behind them weren't inherently bad, and became perfectly acceptable inclusions in a classic wardrobe. So many of us have come to love these items when we might have never known about them otherwise. We'll also see colors come in and out of fashion, with fashion houses pushing them as the new it color. Recently, these popular colors have included burnt orange, maroon, olive green, and lilac, with the seafoam green and dusty rose popular in women's wear also having some crossover. And while many of these colors often become trendy for being unusual, they actually have a long-standing history of use within classic style, albeit usually just in certain climates and regions. When these colors are used for their own merits, and to add appropriate charm to ensembles, they can be worn long after the color is no longer the it item, and still look great regardless. We've even seen felt hats and particular collar styles promoted in pop culture through TV shows and movies, leading to others trying to figure out how they can replicate the look. Remember when Peaky Blinders had folks experimenting with detachable collars? That trend fizzled fairly quickly, because the neckwearless look with prominent stud was just too blatantly vintage for regular wear of classic style dressers. Those who embrace a more period style of dressing, however, such as the vintage gents among us, were able to take this look and run with it, integrating it, if they weren't already doing so, into looks that intentionally co-opt older style details. On vintage gents, this look didn't look affected or fake, because they wore it with genuine confidence and interest in vintage conventions, while those who were embracing the trend simply because it was a trend tended to appear forced and out of place. So now the trend has passed, the gents who like this look have evolved this trend into a statement piece. So if you like something classically inspired that just so happens to be trendy at the moment, don't be afraid to try it. You just might be surprised how easy it is for these sorts of items to become part of your signature style. It is safe to say that the world of fashion over-exaggerates things sometimes, with cuts that are way too far off from their golden ratios to ever be timelessly appealing. You don't have to look that far to see them, unfortunately. But some brands play into these trends with restraint and make it their own. Tom Ford's wide lapels are still classic, even though they take heavy inspiration from suiting styles during the 70s. This is because the brand has been very careful on maintaining a fine line between timeless appeal while still dabbling with trendier elements, and has found their own unique classic identity within the space because of it. The massive class of brands who incorporate trends into their classic lineup is Ralph Lauren, who embrace the preppy vibe within both their marketing and lines of clothing without becoming a late 80s parody. And they still consistently hold a timeless appeal to this day, showing how to walk the fine line between timeless and trendy better than most other fashion houses out there. Moderated versions of trends will often be more useful to you, since you can find flair of personality and cuts that best flatters you without looking like you just came off of an MC Hammer music video.
Yo, I told you, can't touch this.
If you find yourself attracted to a trend, but recognize that it is just a bit too flashy for classic style or your personal style, try toning it down. Let's imagine an example. What if corduroy trousers with extremely wide ribs, such as two-well corduroy, suddenly came into fashion? These extremely wide ribs have bold visual impact, which is typical of trendy attire, but it also makes them appear very dramatic and overly casual, like pajama pants. Knowing what we know about classic style, we can make an educated guess that two-whale corduroy is not going to be inducted in the Classic Style Hall of Fame anytime soon. That doesn't mean, however, that a more moderate version of this trend, let's say corduroy trousers and a more conventional 8 to 12 whale, won't catch on in their own right, essentially piggybacking on the more extreme trend. So, by applying a little classic style common sense and taking advantage of the natural trend for trends to moderate, you can adopt more nuanced versions of trends and incorporate them into classic style more easily. And who knows, your moderate take on trends could become its own trend in its own right. Fashion is cyclical, but it still has to come from somewhere, meaning that some trends will align with classic style hallmarks, and you can safely broaden out your own preferences and taste by remembering the two don't have to be mutually exclusive. Any trends you're seeing that you wish would stick around for good? Let us know in the comments.